Minister, I want to ask you about the proposal for a liquefied natural gas terminal in the Shannon estuary and how you see that as compatible with the state's commitment to tackle climate change, given the fact that we have banned fracking in this state and are likely, if this is to go ahead, to use fracked gas from North America off our coast. It seems to me to fly in the face of any commitment that a minister who is appointed to tackle climate change would have to tackle climate change.
Ministers, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Deputy Smith. There are a number of announcements of private sector commercial proposals to build liquefied natural gas facilities in Ireland. These include Shannon LNG project, which is designated as an EU project of common interest, and a number of more recent proposals. These are commercial projects, and the location, development and final investment decisions of these projects are ultimately the responsibility of the project promoters. In addition, it is the responsibility of the project promoters to comply with any legal and regulatory requirements, including the requirements for planning permission, other consents and permits, and related environmental impact assessments. Ireland's energy policy is fully aligned with the EU's climate and energy objectives on the transition to decarbonisation, which includes the continuous and ongoing review of policies to reduce harmful emissions, improve energy efficiency, incentivise efficient and sustainable infrastructure investment, integrate markets and promote research and innovation, while ensuring our energy security of supply is maintained and enhanced. The development of LNG facility would further enhance Ireland's gas security of supply by increasing import route diversity and would be compatible with the state's commitment to tackle climate change. In the 2015 Energy White Paper, Ireland's transition to a low-carbon energy future, it set out a roadmap for Ireland to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 80 to 95% by 2050. The strategy is clear that non-renewable energy sources will make a significant, though progressively smaller, contribution to our energy mix over the course of that energy transition. The National Mitigation Plan, which I published in 2017, restates the Government's commitment to move from a fossil fuel-based electricity system to a low-carbon power system. The investment in further renewable generation is to be incentivised, and the National Development Plan commits to a doubling of our renewable electricity generation. During this transition, gas has the potential to deliver significant and sustained benefits, particularly in terms of enhanced security of supply. Natural gas has the potential to play an important role in reducing greenhouse gas emissions in our power generation, industrial and commercial, residential and transport sectors by replacing more CO2-intensive fossil fuels. In Ireland, gas power generation provides an important backup for intermittent renewable wind generation within our electricity system.
Deputy Smith is 1 minute.
Well, first of all, just to point out that the LNG terminal that saw plan permission for Ballylongford has been extended for 5 years. It was due to expire in 2018, but the Bord Pleanala have extended it for a further 5 years. And I think that in light of what we now know, what we may not have known when the planning permission was first given, we now know much more about the dangers of LNG. We now know much more about the way the fracking is conducted in North America and the absolute damage that it does to the environment and to the planet. So it's really extraordinary that Bord Pleanala would decide to extend this licence by 5 years without even doing an environmental impact assessment. And here I really want to congratulate the Friends of the Irish Environment for successfully challenging this decision in the High Court and putting an injunction on it. But everything you have said to me, Minister, there indicates that there isn't only a problem with our strategy on climate change, it indicates to me that we have a total lack of a strategy to deal with climate change. And our commitment to reduce our CO2 emissions by 40% by 2030, we're nowhere near it. We're at 10%, and we know for sure that we're not going to be able to do this. So can you please go over again what you're saying to me about energy security, because the planet doesn't recognise borders when it comes to climate change, when it comes to the toxic pollution that it's causing. But you seem to think that it's okay for us to import fracked gas when we've banned it here in Ireland. To me, that's a total contradiction coming from the Minister.
Ministers, 1 minute.
First of all, Deputy Smith, it's 40% of our renewable electricity by 2020, and I'm determined to try and ensure that we achieve that particular target. The production, the sourcing and buying and selling of natural gas produced outside of this jurisdiction is an operational matter for the undertakings involved. There are a number of supply sources, and yes, potentially one of those is North America. Qatar is the biggest producer of natural gas in the world and provides a substantial amount of LNG into Wales at the moment. There are a number of projects that have been proposed. I visited a floating LNG facility when I was in Malta last year, and that has provided security of supply to that particular country. The reality is, and as you know, Deputy Smith, and it would be disingenuous not to acknowledge the fact that we are reliant on gas coming in through the interconnectors to the UK. And if there was, for geopolitical reasons, gas turned off in the eastern part of Europe, then that would have significant implications for employment, for individuals and for families here in this country. And my priority has to be to make sure that people have heat in the morning and electricity when they get up and have a job to go to. That is the #1 priority for me as Energy Minister, is to ensure that we have security of supply and to ensure that that is as low an impact in relation to our environment as possible.
Final supplementary.
I have to contradict you that your priority is just to supply energy. It's also to ensure that we move away from overheating this planet. This type of fuel, liquefied natural gas, is the dirtiest fossil fuel imaginable. The scientists are comparing it to being as dirty as coal. What we didn't know in 2008, when the permission was first granted to allow LNG licences off the coast, was that the actual emissions of methane from natural gas are very, very lethal to the planet. We know that now, so why would we then extend the licences? And why would we have a minister standing up saying that we have to shore up our dependence on fossil fuels instead of moving away from them? Because if LNG terminals were to be built here, it would lock this country into another fossil-fuelled economy, another fossil-fuelled environment for another 50 years. That does nothing to address our commitment to climate change, and in fact we would be supplying gas via Ireland to other parts of Europe. So, Minister, I think what your argument is totally disingenuous. You're not just the Minister for Energy. Energy security is meaningless in a planet where there's no security for either people or other species on it, and I think that needs to be first and foremost in your head.
Final